Hey everyone, it's 11, so we're gonna get started. Can everyone hear me good in the back? Can I get a thumbs up? A wave? Yeah, good thumbs up. That's good. Okay, cool. So thanks for coming to my talk. My name's Phil. Today we're gonna be talking about technical debt. Okay, a little bit before we get into the talk, I want to talk a little bit about the company I work for, Ozidia. We're a Montreal-based innovation and technology firm. We're founded in 2011. So we design intelligent, high-performance applications tailored to the specific needs of our customers. Our services include software engineering, UX/UI design, artificial intelligence, and worker robotics, among other things. With our partnership with Boston Dynamics, we developed software for them. And yeah, so we might have seen the Spot robot walking the SCM. That's us. Technology for us is just a means within our innovation process, not the end result. Okay, a little bit about me, just so you can trust me a tad bit for what I say. I've been in software development for a bit more than a decade now. Last few years, I've been spending a lot of time doing various types of evaluations on existing systems, expert opinions, audits, a lot in the context of capital investment. So for example, someone wants to buy a company, how much is it worth? How much is the software worth? Well, I'm going to be able to somewhat tell them. Most of my experience is with internal enterprise systems, so really more things that are within a business unit, not really public applications or anything like that. Generally with wider and more complex domains, and that require a decent amount of maintainability, extendability, and some measure of cost efficiency, of course. So since we're going to be talking about technical debt today, I think it's worth starting off by defining what it means. The classical meaning of technical debt is a calculated decision to sacrifice flexibility and maintainability based on real-world concerns. So essentially making a choice. Ward Cunningham coined the term technical debt as a metaphor for financial debt. And later down the road, a few years later, he related it more to opportunity loss, where good design and good code creates opportunity, bad design and bad code loses opportunity. To me, technical debt is really the rest of the iceberg. It's what makes a company that would be worth $25 million, worth $15 million. It's what makes your teammates leave for greener pastures. That happens. It's why every new feature is taking just a little bit more time every sprint. At the end of the day, debt impedes opportunity. For the purpose of this talk, and since being pedantic it's a good way to never have any friends, I'm going to use the term technical debt as a catch-all for design or code that does not impede existing functionality, but will impede future changes. I love the original metaphor that Cunningham uses, so I'm going to be using the financial metaphor quite a bit in this talk. So first off, why is there technical debt? Well, from the developer perspective, technical debt sucks. Like it really does. I don't think we say it enough, but when you don't want to come into work because your project is indebted, that's not a fun thing, is it? For those who've never been an indebted brownfield project, like just walking into a project and it's already a big pile of doo-doo. It's kind of like, you're walking down to a bowling alley one day and, you put on the smelly bowling lane shoes and you walk to the lane. The guy leaving the lane stops you and gives you $20K in credit card debt. That's what's happening. Like you didn't do anything and you're still paying the consequences for it. So there's some understandable reason why there would be technical debt on a project. There are reasons for it. Someone might have made a call to hack in a new feature before it was really ready to your team or themselves. It can look good in front of purse holders. That matters. Keeping your job does matter to an extent. Keeping your team afloat matters. And sometimes you do have to make a bad decision to be able to keep the team running. You might also be working on a prototype, a proof of concept, or an MVP, something that's kind of small, and everyone agreed that you just scrap it afterwards. There's a lot of debt in it, that's fine. Kind of a startup mentality, that's completely okay. There's also less understandable and more annoying reasons why you'd have debt. So project managers forcing out features because they don't like long-term planning, they're bad project managers, essentially. The last developer just had no idea what they were doing. Incompetence happens. The last developer didn't care. That also happens. So regardless of what's happened, you're stuck with a big steaming pile of bad times. And what can you do? You got a few options. So the first thing you can do is you can just walk away. That's an option. You always have, well, I mean, hopefully you have the choice to walk away. And I wouldn't blame you. If you have to choose spending years of your life fixing probably someone else's mistake, it's not for everyone. The other choice is to ignore it. So you're paid to be a developer. You're not paid to be the white knight of good coding practices, are you? You focus on stories, tasks coming in the pipeline. If it takes 2 weeks to work on a task, it takes 2 weeks. If it takes 2 months, it takes 2 months. That's not your job. You're getting paid to work, not to imagine new, better ways of working. And the third option is to go down the rabbit hole. That's what we're going to do today. So we've identified that we have why we have that, but before we can tackle it, we do need to know a little bit more about it. So we're going to try to categorize it. Before you tackle any debt, you need to identify the kind of debt it is. I personally categorize it in 3 categories, just because I like the movie, let's be honest. Good debt or mortgage debt. Like it's debt that you want to pay off if you win the lottery, but before you retire. You can also just let it outlive you. It's okay to have some debt, and that's the good kind of debt. It allows you to have a home. It allows you to live off of it. It's fine. You have bad debt or credit card debt. That one hurts every month or every 2 weeks. Or whenever you pay it, it hurts. Or whenever you don't pay it, it hurts. That couch that you bought with a MasterCard, it's starting to seem like not a great deal, is it? And then you have ugly debt or loan shark debt. And that one is 1976 Rocky Balboa coming up with a baseball bat and breaking your legs. Not a lot of fun. Good movie still. So, good debt. An example of good debt is an ongoing merger of 2 systems. So, the company you work for, they've bought another company, or business units are being merged. There's changes in businesses that are pushing towards unifying functionality. That's fine. That's a good thing. So each system works independently. They duplicate features. They cost more to maintain, but otherwise they're functional. Integrating a single new feature in both these systems is going to cost, well, at least double the base implementation costs. That can vary, you get the gist. You can plan for it. That's a great thing about it. You know it. You're about to move in with someone, you know what you need to bring, what you don't need to bring, what things you're going to share, what you're not going to share. So you can have a dedicated team maybe to handle it. And what's good about good debt, what's great about it, is that often non-technical people can understand it. There's an executive that made a call to buy a company, right? They understand it won't be instantly merged. I mean, unless they're a moron, but other than that, they wouldn't understand, right? It takes time. Things don't just work instantly. If people think that in your company, go somewhere else. And the orders are coming from in on eye. They can be easily represented as financial result, and that's good. You have visibility. In theory, good debt, and I'm sure I'm raising a lot of eyebrows doing this, but yeah, it could be more efficient if you just fix everything immediately. It's a bit of a idealistic approach to it. It is more efficient, but at the end of the day, it would require putting in a large amount of effort invested right now. That means you do need to have a big team, right, ramped up. You need to have a lot of capital that's available today. Ouch. You're going to have to do probably some changes to the user or the customer side. That's something that if you have a product and account team, they probably won't enjoy too much. You're merging 2 systems, you're doing 0 interface change? No, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be changes to onboarding. Some projects can take years to onboard new customers. You're doing changes, you have to retrain all those people. And And you might have to do team changes. There might be different technologies you might have to learn. Training, you might have to crunch a little bit too. If you're doing it fast, you guys like working 80-hour weeks? I don't. And the sanest approach to tackle good debt, it's good, but we still want to tackle it. It's slowly, a little bit at a time. You dedicate a percentage of your efforts, let's say 10%, it's a good number. And you get buy-in from everyone involved. The business people too, they matter, they do. You end up paying interest, but you can keep both systems active and satisfy all stakeholders. Good debt is not bulletproof though. If you just keep two systems separated, you don't see a reason to merge them for now. But then you start getting some requests to go and integrate systems tomorrow. Well, I mean, I want payment to be shared between those two. God damn it! And then you got to do it for next week. So instead of actually integrating them, what you do is you write fragile scripts, cheap glue code, hacks, the stuff that you say, it's going to be fine for a month, right? I'm going on vacation next month. Good enough. And that's how good debt becomes bad debt. Bad debt is bad, right? It smells bad. It doesn't really taste like anything, but I'm sure it would taste bad too. An example of bad debt, and I've seen this, would be having an end-user accessible spreadsheet with write access to the database. I mean, there's a security concerns to that. Let's skip over that one, but it's functional. It might serve your user needs. It's simple. I mean, it satisfies all user requirements for now. But one light breeze, one kind of whiff of change, and that all comes crumbling down. So bad debt is the most common and the trickiest, I would say, form of technical debt to tackle. Its side effects are not immediately visible. That's what's hard about it. Non-technical stakeholders, they might not, and they probably don't, have an understanding of what it means. What are its impact? They don't see it. It's not a financial thing. It's a thing that you understand. One big problem with bad debt is also kills motivation. And it's a big hurdle that you do need to push through if you want to ever build a flexible, maintainable system. People being demotivated, wanting to leave at 4 on Friday, it's fine leaving at 4 for going for a beer, but if you leave at 4 because you're crying, that's not great. You're not going to be clearing bad debt before the weekend. There's chances you're not going to be doing that. There's chances that you're not going to be convincing everyone to drop their weekend plans to do it either. Bad debt sucks. And the biggest problem with it is that it hides away. It's in the blind spot. It's that scary thing that hides in the shadows for you and your team. And it might not impact you today, but it will one day. When that day comes, that's when it becomes ugly debt. Okay. Ugly debt is bad debt that's gone worse. The sprint begins. You pick out one user story that no one's touched, in years. And you actually look at it, right? So, I'm going to take it. And then, your sprint meeting ends, whatever. It's a mess. So in 2017, someone decided that was an 8-point story if you do poker planning, right? And, it becomes a 34. You've all agreed that the max was 21, but you're changing it right now. It's a 34. So then you got to tell everyone, and you start having account teams that panic. Well, I thought we were launching this feature next month. That's not doable. It's a 34. 34 is like 6 months. Is it 6 months? We've never done it. We don't know. So they start booking face-to-face meeting with big clients. That's bad. When your account team manager leaves on a plane to go to another country and talk to the client, that's generally either it's a very good situation or a really bad situation. Your director's yelling on the phone in his office. He has to do something all day, so that's what he does. He's yelling at people, gets executive yelling at him. People just shout at each other. Great times. You really want to go into management. That's fun. You see a software architect. He's drawing fancy squares, squiggly line. He has like other software architects around him. Apparently, he's going to fix it in 4 to 6 months. I don't know. Maybe. So ugly debt is when technical debt, when the bill comes due. There's no more dodging it. There's no avoiding it. It's not in the future. It's not maybe later. It's right now. It's in your face. It's in your hands. And everyone's surprised. When that happens, if you've ever been at a company where it happens and you knew for 6 months, yeah, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And then it comes in, everyone's like, I didn't know. Well, did you know? I didn't know. So then, you find someone to blame. That's generally what happens too. It's not a good thing. That's what happens. So it's Jim who moved away. Fuck Jim. Like we blame Jim. It's his problem, his fault. And now you've got an even worse problem. You're spending so much time fixing that ugly debt that's right in your face. More likely, you're creating more of it because you need to deliver. Right? You can't just stop and say, well, you know what? Let's fix everything. If the pipes in your house have burst, you can't just go and say, let's put that on hold. No, you got to tackle it right now. It matters. So you can't get out of it, and you get a feedback loop. It keeps increasing. There's more and more. It keeps going faster and faster and faster. So what happens when your ugly debt is so ubiquitous, it's everywhere, that it's all you're dealing with? You go bankrupt. You can't pay your debt back anymore. You don't have enough energy, enough effort to be able to go beyond what it would take to fix it. So all you're doing is just fixing debt. That's the only thing you can do anymore. You're increasing it. You go bankrupt. You have to start again. That's the only solution there is. There's no other thing you can do. If you're at that point where all you're doing is fixing debt, there's a new issue that pops up. For every issue you fix, there's 2 more. You got to start again. And the difference between technical debt and bankruptcy is the ultimacy of it. Once you get bankrupt, it's costing you less to just scrap everything. So I've seen some systems that were held in a state of bankruptcy for years, where they're actually just getting worse. It's a mature software. It's just getting worse. There's no new features. And it's a hard thing to explain too. Explain to a client, right? I didn't add anything, but now it's worse. It's slower. Why? Well, that stuff. There's no real explanation you can give that makes sense to them. And ultimately, you're just throwing money out of your window. If you're in a bankruptcy state, that's all that's going on. It's getting worse and worse. And it's going to start impacting your customer. It's going to impact your business. There's going to be big issues. So I've documented this process for visual learners in case it's not clear. So sunny, everything's going fine. It's all going under the sun. Good debt, bad debt, starting to panic, holy shit, it's in my hands, and then death, bankruptcy, sorry, yeah. It feels like death. Another way to look at it is clean. I mean, obviously, there's no debt that exists. Good, it's visible, and it's understood by all stakeholders. It's bad. Bad is visible and understood by some technical stakeholders. So at least the team has an idea is going on. Ugly, it's right now, affecting current tasks. And bankruptcy, I mean, you just start from scratch. Okay, let's tackle our debt. So as we discussed, good debt, we're not too worried about. It's something that's understood by everyone. There's a manager in charge of it. You don't need to do management's job. They're getting paid enough to do it. So we're going to be worrying instead about the bad and the ugly debt that we need to tackle. It's not seen by management, so it's the responsibility of the development team. The team's happy, they might be running towards certain debt. Maybe you're the only person who knows it. So you do need to steer the course. This is called technical debt warrior, by the way. You're the one doing the work. So the first thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to find someone to help you, right? There's a few doors that you can choose from. So realistically, you can ask multiple people. You can ask multiple people on this list. And if you do that, you might ruffle some feathers. If you go and you talk to your project manager, and you're like, can I do this? And they say no. And then you go and you talk to the team lead, and you're like, so they said no, can I do this? And then they go no. And then you just talk to the whole team and you ask them, can I do this? And they still say no. People are going to think you're a bit of an asshole. That's completely right. That's correct too. You are. So you do have to find at least one person that can help you fix things. Let's try to convince our project manager. So let's understand first what the project manager cares about. If you're talking to someone, you have to know them a little bit. Know what their ambitions are, know where they summer, I don't know. You need to know things about them. And good project managers are generally fundamentally risk-averse people. They're not the ones who like got into crypto on day one, right? You want to talk to project managers about continuity. You want to talk to them about stability. You want to talk to them, you want them to be able to manage expectations from all parties. They have other people to worry about who wear suits and tie, and they're more imposing than you are. For them, a 3-6-3 distribution is way worse than 4-4-4. So you got to ask yourself, how do I smoothen things out for them? What are the top priorities for the next few months? Would you be able to tackle the debt on those priorities? So to do that, you start off by looking at the roadmap. You identify high-value epics requiring a significant amount of work. Something that's about at least 4 weeks off before it starts, right? It's a big thing. It's important. And it's a little bit away, but not too far away. You propose to start work on it earlier. Yeah, you take work outside of the allotted time. You go and you have a little meeting with them and you say, hey, you know what? I'd like to work on it. And you don't do that in the middle of a month. Don't do it at the end of a month. You do it at the beginning of a month for the next month. And you do that because people like clean boxes. And next month seems very, very far away, but it's not. It's right next door. You don't talk about technical debt. Non-technical project managers, you don't mention technical debt. You talk about foundational work. It works. Ideally, you'd also create a set of technical tasks that are going to sit outside the epic you're tackling. So it doesn't look like you're blowing it up. It's extra work, but it's foundational and it's important and matters. There's a few reasons you're doing all this. So first, housing metaphors. They're easy to understand. They translate well to everyone who's lived somewhere, so they understand that. High-value items are generally not skating by on very thin ROI. Generally, project managers don't mind spending a bit more effort on those because they matter. They know that's the one thing their boss is going to look at. So you want to be reducing risk on those. They're important to them. Chances are they do have some contingency too. If they're halfway decent project managers, you have some contingency. You can fit inside of that buffer. You're making it visible to someone who can't ignore it. That's good. Remember, good debt is visible to more people. So you're making it already more visible. It doesn't just depend on you anymore. It doesn't. A project manager who's been told this might be a problem, and then they don't fix the debt, they don't allow you to fix it, and then it does become a problem, it's their fault. It is. It's someone else's responsibility. Good. How do we convince a lead developer? So lead developers and staff developers, fancy, senior, but they're not in another role because management's cheap developers. They're generally good at managing stress, right? They're battle tested. They're probably not the ones that are sweating too much from risk. They understand risk. They live in it. That's what you do all day too, right? You measure some risk. You say, am I taking the right decision? Yeah, no. Sweat a little bit, lose a few hair, but you're good. You move forward. Lead devs care about the process. They care about how things flow. A good lead they like simplicity, they like efficiency, because complex and tedious things, they fall back to them. If you're dealing with a lead developer who doesn't know what's going on, they don't know about the debt, talk to them about taking more responsibility. You put the work on your shoulders. You present ideas with pre-work already done. You don't need to write the technical task, I'll do it. That should be a mantra. You do not need to write the technical task. I will do it for you. That sounds great. You're taking work off their end. I'm tackling a problem so you don't have to, and I'm going to do all the pre-work for it. Nice. If the lead developer knows about the technical debt, don't be an asshole. No, seriously. And they have other things to worry about maybe. They know about it. They haven't been able to tackle it. If you can, that's great. If they haven't done it, there's no point in ruffling feathers. There's no point in saying, hey, you know what, this could have been done. Yeah, they know. If they're aware of it, they're aware of it. We just move on. So do make their dream of a better world come true, right? Sounds bad, but after a few years of dealing with software that might have some debt, if someone comes in and says, you know what, I'll fix it for you, how much are you going to like that person? I would. They don't want to spend 4 hours in a meeting with a product owner talking about it. So you're doing it. That's great. The last group of people you can convince is the development team. If you can't convince the PM or the lead, you might have to do a tiny bit of mutiny, a smidge. You present your findings to 2 other developers on the team, 2 people. Ideally, a few hours before the retro. Not a different week, a few hours before. There's a strategy to this. You do it individually, and you bribe them in a soft way. We don't call it a bribe, right? But you bring a few extra cookies, a compliment. It's like, oh, I like your shirt. It's nice. It's a good shirt. Got a dragon on it. Love it. So you kind of take that approach. You make sure all the dominoes are placed perfectly, and then you make your move. They both agree with you. At the retro, you bring up the epic you're targeting. There's a space for that. For you to talk about problems you have in your project, use it. And you think that people might have to crunch to get it done. That's going to create issues. In a month, we're starting to work on this, and I think we're going to have to work weekends. Oh, and people are going to kind of get up and go, oh, what the fuck? What are you talking about? We're going to have to work weekends? And before the project manager can start calming people down, you just go and say, I'll handle it. It's fine. I'll do it. I'll write the tasks. I'll get started on them. You don't have to worry. I'm saving you from all this. If you can convince anyone, you got to go Iron Man mode. So, okay, this is a little bit unethical, so I'm just going to rephrase that. So if no one wants to help, yeah, whatever. Just do it. Spend 10, 20% of your time working on a PR with the fixes you want to make. I mean, you can just do it. You have slower velocity for a little while, 10, 20%. But at least you're going to be tackling your technical debt. How much do you care about it? I mean it. Sometimes you can do things just because I want to fix it. I don't care about my job. I want to fix the debt on this effing project. If you want to be sneaky about it, keep the branch local too. Don't talk about it until you're ready. Just like keep it on the side, just work a little bit in the corner. If the winds blow in the wrong direction, you want to have a bit of a backup, an alibi. You want to be able to abort. I've noticed you've been a little, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just, everything's going fine. You just delete your branch. You're good. You'll want to be giving the corrective code to the developer who's going to be tackling the epic directly. So you're not even going to be visible in this. When that epic starts, that big scary epic, they start working on it. And then they're going to open up the code and they're going to go, oh, Jesus, what the? And you're going to be there just a few hours before, a few hours after, let them sweat a little bit, right? And then you come in and you're like, I did all the fixes for you, and you just give it to them. You're going to be making their day, yeah. But yeah, if you do that, there's a chance you might get fired, so just don't mention me. Okay, so we've established how we can get started onto, being there and being able to go and tackle that. When we want to actually be tackling the debt, we're getting to it, we need to fix it. The real fun begins. It does. That's the cool part of our job, coding. One of the main problems that you might have is that technical debt is very, very often spaghetti code. It's not clean. There's no clean separation of concerns. There's going to be heavy coupling, low cohesion. You need to establish the boundaries that you're going to be working with. If you don't establish boundaries, there's a good chance you might get into a fixing everything situation instead of fixing something. The reason why is probably because you're going to be pretty up top, right? I get to do it. It's been 3 years. Awesome. And then you start coding and you're just changing everything, and then you're not fixing anything. So specify what you want to do. Have a target. Be clear. You want to look at issues from the top down. Any problems, you look at them from the top down. And the reason why you want to go high level, low level is higher level solutions have broader consequences if you can afford to do them. Remember, we said Epic starts in a month, something like that. So if you're tackling your deck, you want to make sure it fits within a month. If you fix a function and then they scrap the whole module, that was useless. That didn't serve any purposes. If you absolutely cannot fix the whole module, then fixing a class is probably better than doing nothing. And fixing a function is better than doing nothing. Fixing a line of code is better than doing nothing. Yeah, and there's really two practices I would recommend, and I'm going to end my talk with this, that I recommend using for tackling technical debt. I've had success with them in the past. I've seen people have some amount of success with them in the past too. The first one is defensive programming. So defensive programming is idiot-proofing for software world. That's really what it is. You make sure that even if there's an improper state, even if things aren't what they should be, even if the contract isn't respected, the program keeps running. Defensive programming involves establishing a barrier, kind of a force field, between your code and the outside world. In our case, we want to be treating our old code or embedded code as the outside world. We treat it as a third party. You don't really trust it. It's a little bit sketchy. It was sent to you by a contractor that lives the other side of your, oh, no, I'm not. You wrap up around it. This is going to add a performance impact, obviously. This is just one case, but if you go and you add 10,000 of those, yeah, it's going to have a bit of performance impact. That being said, it will still improve the reliability of your debt-corrected code. It's going to be more reliable. It's going to be able to coexist with embedded code and work. You want to do more checks than necessary. You want to ensure that you're insulated against bad code. If you don't do this and you write new code that crashes, you've just broken every promise. Yeah, you said I was going to fix it and you introduce new bugs. Ow. The second thing you can do is use a strangler fit pattern. The idea, and this can be done at different levels. Often it's on a very high level, more in the networking, communication type level. And the idea is that you're going to be setting up some sort of facade. You use a facade to progressively redirect usage from a portion of your code, of your app, whatever, to a new one. This is really an interesting thing to do if you don't have complete trust in your new code. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to do these changes, but thing that could happen is your requirement definition might not be great, right? You don't really trust the requirements that are given to you for new code, or you're not really able to extract them. Oh, there might be some edge cases I'm not thinking about when I'm fixing it. Reading the old code is a complete mess, right? It's all on one line. It was done in Fortran in 1990. Unable to read it, you need to convert it, and you might be missing some bits and some little things. So if you use a strangler fit, the great thing is you can always kind of catch exceptions coming out of your new code. You know what? My new code didn't work. Let's run off the old one. Yeah, it's not perfect, but at least it's working. And then you're able to think, hey, I have a new exception. Let me add that to my business rules I have there. Let me fix that. Of course, once your code is all debt-free and bug-free, then you want to go and remove that facade entirely. Everything's new, everything's clean, everything's done. So a few takeaways before I close off my talk. It sucks. And I feel really bad sometimes when I work on projects. I'm starting out at, helping out some companies and dev teams, and sometimes you feel people, and you can see that they're just like, oh God, put me out of my misery. I can't do this anymore. It's been 10 years. I'm doing like PHP 5. What's going on? And I'm really sorry you have to deal with that. And that's something that you have to tell people. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I'm sorry this sucks. Clean, good, bad, panic, bankrupt, right? You want to keep your debt visible. There's a lot of people who, when they say tackling technical debt, well, I'll just add a ticket. Yeah, okay, but it's more involved than that. You want it to be visible, understood. In a backlog of 10,000 other issues, that's not visible, that means nothing. You want to remind your project manager. And they'll hate you because you remind them of it, but then they're liable for it. Make it clear to everyone above. You want to fix one thing at a time. One thing, one target, one box, one boundary. And only bite where you can chew. If you're going and you're going too wide, you're starting and you're going too wide, you're not going to succeed. This first time you do this, and follow some of my advice, not all of it, but seriously, if the first time that you do this, you want to make sure that you're in a win situation, that you're able to fix a little bit of that. A tiny bit, make it a little bit better for one feature. And then the next one, you can get a bit bigger. And at some point, it's going to be a process. Oh, we have a big epic coming out in a month. We need people to do some foundational work. It's a fun word, right?